Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a response video to some of my comments in a Screenwriter's Rant Moxie trailer reaction. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books, links in the description. Wokistan, a novel, Hollywoke, another novel, political satire, and of course the Pineys, horror comedy from South Jersey, all available at Amazon.com. And also check me out on BitChute and Rumble. Now, I got some comments in the Moxie trailer, and for those of you who didn't see it or don't remember it, Moxie was a movie starring Amy Poehler as a mom who has a teenage daughter, pictured there in the video, and she is, a teenager, and she discovers that her mom was like kind of a rebel. All right, she was a rebel. She protested stuff in school, and she had kind of an attitude, and she decides kind of to base her identity on that, kind of sort of like feeling it out, and it turns into this sort of woke movie about fighting the patriarchy. And it wasn't my kind of movie. I didn't think the trailer really did it any service, because one of the things I noticed in the trailer, and it seemed to be chronological in terms of the scenes for the most part, at the beginning of the movie, her teenage daughter seems pretty happy, and by the end of it, she seems angry, like I've been ripped off, and yeah, it didn't present well to me. But someone made some comments. Now, I'm not trying to pick on this person. I'm going to read some of her comments. I assume it's a woman. It seems like a woman's name, woman's avatar, and so please don't dox or harass or contact this person in any way. And I'm not trying to disparage her opinion. I'm just discussing things because I just felt her opinion was interesting, so I'm responding. She writes, "It's actually based on a book, and it's pretty faithful to it. Plus, young girls who are still in high school can relate to it on so many levels, since it's really like that for girls in high school." I guess. I guess you could say they're happy when they get in, and by the end they're miserable. I don't know. It's usually pretty miserable for everybody in high school. At least it was for me. I hated high school. I hated every moment of it. Couldn't wait to get out. I'm glad that I did. Wouldn't go back. I would go back to college. College was fun. But she continues, and she made a bunch of comments. It really isn't preachy. I said it was preachy. Plus, teenage girls really do deal with that issue all the time, since they always have to follow a different set of rules, but guys get to do whatever they want. Which I just had to laugh at, because I was just like, what? I wasn't. There are all kinds of rules for guys, even back in my day. Now it's ridiculous that you're under a microscope constantly, especially with trying to ask a girl out. You cannot imagine how nerve-wracking it is when you are a teenager trying to screw up the courage. And here's the balance. You can't be too wimpy, or she'll be like, you're an unattractive male. I'm not interested in you. Look at you, stammering and sweating. Get away from me. Or the opposite, you come on a little too strong, and you get accused of being a you-know-what. Hey, back off. Oh, help. It's a real precarious balance. And a lot of guys, they don't know how to handle it. They're just learning. And, some women, and they're just learning too, but they may not have the patience for it, especially if they're very pretty and they get hit on all the time. They get a little impatient and like, come on, buddy, get lost. I can't say I blame them, but the problems are different, right? The problems are, you got pretty girls who get tons of offers, and you got guys trying to make the offer. And with guys, it's just like on dating sites. It transfers right over. Women get tons and tons of emails, and guys, they send out tons and tons of emails. There are plenty of dating websites, or at least there used to be, where the women don't pay, because the dating sites need the women to get the guys to come in. Usually it doesn't work the other way around. But, it depends. These aren't 100% rules, but I think society is pretty well known to people, at least in my experience. She continues, there's a bunch of different comments. I wouldn't say it's edgy. I said the movie was edgy if it had been released in like the 80s or 70s. I wouldn't say it's edgy since it's really like that in high school and college for girls, since people always treat them differently. Differently from what? Well, the only answer is differently from the men. Well, of course they treat them differently from the men. You wouldn't want to be treated like a guy. Because guys are, well, I'll give you an example, right? So with women, they might get together and say nice things about each other, right? Oh, you got great clothes. I love your hair. I love your shoes. Whatever. When a girl leaves, it might get a little mean, right? Not always. It's not 100%, but that's when, like, the cat stuff, the cattiness comes in. Oh, yeah. You know, she dated my boyfriend for a while, and he said blah, 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 blah. Guys are kind of the opposite in that way. With guys, we'll give each other the business, right? We call each other vulgar names and say things that we're like testing each other, but we don't mean those things. And there's like a little bit of an art to that. And then when, you know, one of the guys leaves, we might say something complimentary, like, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. I've known him for years. He's a good guy. And you know, that it's just different. It's just different. Guys can make friends like that. We can make friends anywhere. We can be on an elevator, and, you know, total strangers. People talk about sports. Now, I'm not a sports guy, but people bond over sports. They bond over looking at women. They bond over lots of different things. Women, I've heard tons and tons of stories. They have problems making friends. Probably because they overanalyze things, I think. They overanalyze relationships because that's what they're into. They're constantly like, whoa, you know, what did they say? Did they mean it that way? Or whatever. It's not, you know, I'm not saying one's better than the other. They're just different. Right, Joan? Right? Here, you go to sleep. Continuing with more comments. Yeah, but girls also get treated differently in school. Again, they do. You know, you're going to, you know, a gym coach is going to treat a guy like, hey, knucklehead, go pick up the bases after we play baseball. Don't just leave them there. Whereas you wouldn't say that to a girl. You would say, you know, Melissa, can you please go pick up those bases? It's a little different of a delivery. Although these days, everybody's so sensitive about everything. Who knows? You know, the idea that, well, women are treated differently, therefore it's wrong and it's worse. You're creating a contest that doesn't matter and doesn't exist. We all had it pretty rough in high school. A guy asking a girl out is nerve-wracking. You know, and you're also expected to plan the date, pay for the date, do all the things on the date, entertain her. Again, most people, right? I mean, I've seen, and the transfer is right over in the profiles in the adult dating world. I've seen plenty of women, they just put out their demands. Oh, you better have a good conversation or else I'm not going to talk to you. You better have this. You better have that. I don't like this. I don't like that. Because it's guys making the offer and women like turning them down. Again, not 100%, but pretty close. Finally, she admits, yeah, guys have their own issues, but girls have it harder since they have to work harder so that people will take them seriously. If they get harassed or assault people, and unfortunately YouTube nerfed the rest of her comment, I can't see it. I can see it on the list, but for some reason it's gone. I don't know what she said. But, you know, if they get harassed or assault people is a weird comment. I'm not sure what she meant by that. Maybe she meant if they get harassed or assaulted by people. Yeah, that's not good. I mean, you know, that's terrible. No one should get harassed or assault, girls or guys. When I was in high school, I got harassed all the friggin' time. But because I was a guy, I was expected, my bar for being harassed was way higher than any girl. You know, I got harassed for, you know, just being the oddball I was. I actually got bullied by a girl. She until I punched her in the face. Yeah, and she was an upperclassman. Man, she gave it to me. And then one day I went bananas and I punched her on the bus. And she never bothered me again. But, you know, she wasn't some skinny, petite girl. She had a few pounds on me. She had a few pounds. And she thought she could pick on me forever. and she couldn't. So there you have it. I mean, it's not, and I'm sure there's plenty of guys who do that and do horrible things. I'm not saying it's one way. But, girls have it harder? Nah, they're just different. You have it different. And I think women are more sensitive. They tend to be. They evolved that way. They evolved to be more sensitive to things, especially emotional things. And it's a very emotional time in high school. So it certainly seems that way. I'm sure, I've known plenty of women who, it seems like it's the end of the world on a lot of things. But it's actually not, And it's different for guys in that, women will say, oh, guys, when they get sick, it's the end of the world. Yeah, kind of. Because with guys, we usually ignore it until we're like so sick we can't ignore it anymore. With women, they'll ignore it too, but for different reasons. They're like the nurturers. They don't want to take time away. They'll just keep nurturing until they collapse, and then you have to take them to the hospital. Continuing with their comments, they could just treat them as equals since guys can break a rule in school and nothing happens, but a girl does it and it's a big deal. Well, that's not something I experienced. Not at all. In fact, it was the opposite, at least in my day. They let the girls get away with murder. But guys, forget it. You stepped out of line and was like, hey, what are you guys up to? They were always suspicious of guys. They always thought we were up to no good. Whereas girls, oh, it's just the girls. They're just having a good time. They're just having a good time. They're going to go in the bathroom and do their nails. And meanwhile, they're doing lines of coke and planning God knows what. Guys, you could just walk down the wrong hallway and the hall monitor's like, hey, what the hell are you up to? So, I'm sure it varies from region to region, culture to culture. I'm sure there's a big variance there. But to say that one has it harder than the other, they just have it different. And we have to acknowledge that. And that's part of, some of the stuff I talk about on this channel in terms of the wokeness, right? People who are like super woke, they want to pretend like, oh no, we're all equal. We're all blank slates that could be perfectly equal. No, we're different. And that's what's so hard about things. That's what's so hard of getting people together, because first you got, young kids in the teenage years. They're kind of old enough to start doing adult stuff, but they're not old enough mentally to sort of deal with it. And you kind of got to mentor them and, say, well, this is the way things are. And then you got woke idiots out there saying, no, that's not the way things are anymore. You see, men and women are now the same, and you can switch back and forth and blah, blah, blah. See, you're not helping. You're not helping a teenage girl who's trying to discover herself and her identity by telling her, oh, well, guess what? You have even more choices now. It's not really the direction I would go in. I would just be like, what are you interested in? What's going on? And of course, you want an atmosphere that's reasonably safe and nice, but you don't want it too safe and nice. You want the kids to interact with each other, and they're gonna do stupid things on occasion, but you gotta forgive them. The problem right now is with cancer culture, no one's forgiven. No one's forgiven on the internet. No one's forgiven for certain, faux pas. I'm reminded of that girl who, she said a naughty word back in high school, I think it was, or junior high, and some kid saved it on his phone for like 4 or 5 years, and then outed her when she was in college. Like, see, she's secretly a racist. That, to me, was uncalled for, and the school should have been like, what do we care what she said when she was 14 or whatever? But they didn't, and now there's a problem. We gotta be a little more forgiving of people, especially if they apologize. And even if they don't, I mean, like, some people just make mistakes, and they're dysfunctional human beings, and they never get quite right. But as long as they're not hurting anybody, and I mean like physically hurting anybody or committing crimes or whatever, they'll go off on their own and do their own thing. Like, why do you got to bother people? So I just find it funny that, here's a woman who's just like, no, women have it harder. You have it different. I'm not going to get into a contest to see who has it worse. I'm sure I could tell you plenty of horror stories from my high school, and so could everybody else. And yeah, there's a few people out there who had real effing problems, like real big problems that were just awful and awful beyond words. But most people, they're teenagers, they're very angsty, they do some stupid things, they embarrass themselves, but then they grow up. So anyhow, again, I'm not trying to bash this person. Thank you for responding in the comments, and I hope my response was enlightening.